Like we've talked about in quite a few videos already, you know, conservation of resources is huge in any survival or self-reliance situation, and it's taught very heavily in the Pathfinder system. Conserving your resources includes conserving the blade of your knife. So if you can build traps without cutting tools, then you're that much better off. So what we're going to do today is we're going to build a quick dog bone trigger trap right here off the trail to the side, show you how to do that using nothing except your hands and a piece of string. Stay with me. Okay, here's the first component of our trap is a Y. You can see that both ends are snapped off. This is pretty much a dead piece. It's very light, but it's been broken off, not cut off. Okay, we need a trigger. We need a dog bone. For that, we're going to need a small stick. So let's kind of break this off a little bit and see which is going to be the best piece for that. I'm going to say it's probably this one right here at the end. Break that off a little bit long right now to start off with. Hang on to that. Then I'm going to need a bait stick. For that, I'm going to use this end. And I'm going to need a stake in the ground, and I'll use this for that. Hopefully. If not, I can always go get another one. And now we probably need a baton. I'll throw these down here beside this rope and this trigger and get a baton and be right back. Okay, you can see we split this off and busted it off by hand. I just shoved the branch in the fork of a tree and snapped it off. I've showed you guys that before in videos. It's still green on the inside, so it's plenty heavy for baton work. So let's get us a trap built right down here by this dead bush honeysuckle. Right, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to use this as our spring device. It's not live, it's pretty well dead, but it's still got a lot of spring to it. It's green on the inside, so let's break all the stuff out of the way that's going to interfere with this thing springing. Again, we don't want to use a knife or an axe or a saw for this. We want to conserve our cutting tools. We're just getting everything out of our way. We want to make sure that this is going to be plenty springy. It looks like it is. So now we're ready to start. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this piece of line here I've got. It's more than long enough for what I want to do. So I'm going to tie a half hitch or a overhand knot in here to give me a loop. I'm going to take that loop over the top of my spring device, right over the trail. And I'm going to put a loop in there so that I can get it back off very easily when I'm done. And if I want to move my trap somewhere else, it's not going to be a problem. Bring that down off the trail over here where I want to go. This is where we're going to build our trap. Okay, so we're going to build our trap right here off the trail. Like I said, this piece of string is more than long enough for what we need. So what we'll do is we will reverse engineer this a little bit, because normally what I would do is I would tie my dog bone in right where I wanted my trap to be as far as the trigger system goes. But in this case, I need to look at how much loop I've got left here, how much string I've got left, because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to wrap some of this around the tree to conserve my resource. So I don't have to cut my line and I don't have to use my cutting tool. So I'm just going to wrap this line around the tree, and it might take quite a few times, and I really don't care about that, because all I'm worried about right now is not cutting anything and not using a cutting tool. Off, that'll make it a little easier. Have a shorter trip to go around this thing. There we go. Okay, now let's see what we got. All right, now we got enough for a loop. So now we'll just tie a loop in this other end real quick. Same exact type loop, except smaller. We don't want this loop much bigger than the diameter of our cordage. So I'm going to tie that loop pretty small. And you can see that's actually just a little bit bigger than what I intended to stop with. It's not very big. And then I'll put the loop back through, and that'll give me my snare loop. Then I'll bring this thing down to the trail and tie my dog bone trigger where I want it. Wrap around a couple times on this side and half hitch it off. Just like that. I'll half hitch it once, half hitch it twice. Again, easy to get off of here if I need to. Then I'll come around to this other side, I'll slack it up, and I'll half hitch around that side of the trigger a couple times. Just like this. There's one. And there's two. And that'll be more than enough to hold that trigger in place. but yet I'll be able to get it off easy when I need to. Okay, now that I've got that, I need to decide where I'm going to set my trap. Get my fork going here into the ground. It's going to be about right here. I want that fork directly over the top of where my trap's going to be. Now, if our ground's real hard right here, that may be the only issue we run into with using these dead branches, but it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad. I'm going to bend this fork in just a little bit as best I can and try not to break it off. I heard it snap a little bit, but that may not matter if it breaks, because as long as I've got this edge on here, I can put it in at a little bit steeper angle like this, and it's still going to do what I want it to do because it's got that hook on there, and that's where I'm trying to trap my dog bone, is in that hook. Okay, and I've got my other two pieces over here, which are my bait stick. I'm going to try to break that off at an angle. If I don't, it's not that big of a deal. That one's kind of got a sharp angle on it already. Now, what I would put on here for bait depends on what I'm trying to catch, obviously, but in this case, it would probably be some kind of a peanut butter or something like that I had in my backpack. I try to keep peanut butter anytime I get it, whether it's in an MRE or whatever. I try to keep peanut butter because it seems to be very, very effective on squirrel. Now I'm just going to measure this out, see where I want this to be, this bait stick. Pound my stay in the ground over on this side, just like that. If my bait stick's too heavy, it's not a big deal. I'll just go make another one. If it's too long, it's not a big deal. I'll just break it off. And I think that this is a little bit thicker than what I want to use, so I'm going to go find a different one. That'll take me just a second, and I'll be right back. Got a dead branch here. This one's going to work. This will give me plenty of length to do whatever I want to do with it. I'll try to break it off sharp on this side if I can. Measure it out a little bit here in between my stays. Break it off again. Try to snap it as clean as I possibly can. That's still a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wedge that on a stump right here. You just snap a piece off of it. And I just split a piece off the side of it like that, and that's fine. A lot of people get way too critical with this stuff. It's not that critical. Just like breaking this fork is not a big deal as long as I've got that hook in there. Because all I really want to happen is I want this dog bone to be captured underneath it. And as long as that happens and it doesn't come out of the ground, that's all that really counts. And my dog bone's a little bit long. Again, not a big deal. I use a dead branch, I'll snap it off. If I have to, I'll retie it. It's not a big deal. This stuff is not as critical as a lot of people make it out to be. The smaller my dog bone is, the better off I am sometimes, because it's going to set off easier. So it's shortened up now. I'll half hitch it off on both sides. Just like I did the first time. There we go. Like I said, that's more than enough to hold that in there. Bring it down, watching my face obviously. I'll hook it underneath, and as long as I hold my finger on it down here, it's not going to go off. Then I'll put my bait stick in here. Now, if I were setting this trap for real, I would obviously want to make sure that I had bait on this stick before I put it here. Again, anything that you think that animal's going to eat, whether it is the guts of something that you just killed, whether it is something that you have left over in your backpack, like peanut butter or something like that, you know, that's part of conserving resources, is not always eating everything that you have, because you might be able to use that for bait for a bigger animal. All right, then we can set our snare loop over the top, stake it out if we need to, out here, cover it with a few leaves that's spread with peanut butter. You know, it works very easy. The animal comes in, trips it, and he's hung. And that's all there is to it. It's very, very simple. We used absolutely no cutting tools to make that trap. We can move this trap anywhere we want it. It's very easy to set. It takes seconds to set it up. Once we get our stick baited, all we have to do is hold it in place long enough to set it. We can set it to a hair trigger if we choose to do that. That's not difficult with this type of trap. Put our snare loop back over the top of it. Spread it out. Stake it down if the need arises. And again, boom. Nothing to it, guys. Trapping is overcomplicated by so many people. It is not that difficult. The issue is sheer numbers of traps. The more traps you have, the more chance you have to catch animals. But if you can make traps like this without using tools, you're much better off.